What would you do if 7 months pregnant, you found out your millionaire husband was having an affair with your best friend for Catherine Morrison? That shocking discovery was only the beginning, because hidden behind the betrayal was a web of lies, stolen millions, secret children, and a plan to erase her from his life completely. But what he didn't know was that she was about to turn his entire world upside down. Stay with me until the end, because this story will leave you questioning everything you think you know about love, loyalty, and revenge. If you enjoy stories like this, real drama, shocking twists, and powerful comebacks, make sure you hit like, drop a comment with your thoughts. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss the next unbelievable story. Catherine, you need to sit down. There's something you have to see. Catherine Morrison looked up from the marble kitchen counter where she was preparing her morning decaf coffee, her 7 months pregnant belly making the simple task more challenging than it used to be. Her younger sister Rachel stood in the doorway of their Westchester mansion, still wearing her coat despite the May warmth, her face pale with something Catherine couldn't quite identify. Fear, anger, both. Rachel, "Honey, what are you doing here at 7 in the morning?" Catherine asked, her slight Georgia accent more pronounced in her concern. She set down her coffee cup, the morning news playing softly on the kitchen television. "Is everything all right?" Rachel moved into the kitchen quickly, her designer heels clicking against the Italian marble. "Listen, Katie," she began, and Catherine immediately knew something was terribly wrong. Rachel only called her Katie when stressed, and the repetition of "listen, Katie" was her telltale sign of serious trouble. "Just show me," Catherine said, lowering herself carefully onto one of the bar stools. At 45, this pregnancy had been her miracle after 3 devastating miscarriages. Every movement was calculated, careful, protective of the life growing inside her. Rachel pulled out her phone, her hands trembling slightly. "My friend Jennifer was at the Ritz-Carlton last night. She works events there. You know she saw David?" Catherine felt her breath catch. Her husband of 20 years was supposed to be at a business dinner downtown, finalizing a merger that would expand his technology company into international markets. David Morrison, CEO and millionaire entrepreneur, had built his empire from nothing, and Catherine had been by his side through every step. And Catherine prompted, though something in her sister's expression made her want to stop this conversation, to rewind these moments and stay in the before. Rachel turned the phone screen toward her sister. The first photo showed David at an intimate corner table, leaning forward, his hand covering another woman's hand. Catherine recognized the Rolex she'd given him for their 15th anniversary. The second photo was worse. David kissing the woman in the hotel lobby. The third made Catherine's world tilt and spin. The woman was Monica, her best friend for 15 years, her matron of honor. The woman who had held her hand through every miscarriage, who was planning her baby shower for next month. Catherine thought the baby kicked, but realized it was her heart dropping, a physical sensation of something breaking inside her chest. "There's more," Rachel said quietly, swiping through several more images. Monica laughing, her hand on David's chest, David whispering in Monica's ear. The two of them entering an elevator together. David's hand on the small of Monica's back in that possessive way Catherine knew so well. "I need to call him," Catherine said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. She reached for her phone, dialing David's office number. "Good morning, Morrison Technologies," his assistant answered cheerfully. "How may I direct your call?" "Helen, it's Catherine. I need to speak with David immediately." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Morrison, but Mr. Morrison is in a meeting and asked not to be disturbed. Can I take a message?" Catherine hung up without responding. She tried his cell phone, straight to voicemail. She dialed Monica's number. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. "Monica, it's Catherine. Call me immediately." Rachel had moved closer, her hand on Catherine's shoulder. "Listen, Katie, we need to think about this carefully. You're 7 months pregnant. The stress." Catherine stood up abruptly, then grabbed the counter as a wave of morning sickness hit her. Rachel helped her to the powder room just in time. When Catherine emerged, pale and shaking, her sister had prepared a glass of water and some crackers. 20 years, Catherine said, her voice hollow. 20 years and he does this now, when I'm carrying his child. The child we tried for so long to have, men like David, Rachel began, then stopped. No, I'm not going to make excuses. He's a narcissistic piece of garbage who never deserved you. Catherine's phone buzzed. A text from David. In meetings all morning. We'll call later. Love you. Love you, Catherine repeated, staring at the words. He's lying to my face while sleeping with my best friend? Rachel pulled out her phone again. Jennifer said they were there for at least 3 hours. She has the receipt timestamps if we need them. Catherine moved to the living room, sinking into the cream-colored sofa she and Monica had picked out together last year. The irony wasn't lost on her. Monica had sat in this very spot just last week, discussing baby names and nursery colors. How long do you think it's been going on? Catherine asked. Rachel sat beside her. Jennifer started noticing them at the hotel about 3 months ago. Right after I announced the pregnancy, Catherine finished. The timeline clicked into place with sickening clarity. David's increased business trips, Monica's sudden unavailability for their weekly lunches, the way they'd both been at the same conference in Boston last month. Catherine's phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, Rachel whispered. But put it on speaker. Record it. Catherine activated the recording app Rachel quickly downloaded, then answered. Hello. David. Catherine. You called the office. Is everything all right? Is it the baby? His voice was smooth, concerned, the perfect picture of a devoted husband. Everything's fine, Catherine lied. I just wanted to know how your dinner went last night. Oh, the merger dinner, fantastic. We closed the deal. I should be able to cut back on travel now, spend more time preparing for our little one. Catherine met Rachel's eyes. That's wonderful. Where did you end up going? Morton's, downtown. You know how these Japanese investors love their steaks. Of course. What time did you get home? I didn't hear you come in. There was a pause. Late. Maybe one I didn't want to wake you. You need your rest. That's thoughtful of you, Catherine said, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. David, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Of course. Sweetheart, what is it? Are you having an affair with Monica? The silence stretched for several seconds. Then David laughed, the sound forced and hollow. Catherine, where is this coming from? You're being hormonal. This pregnancy has you seeing things that aren't there. So you're denying it? Of course I'm denying it. Monica is your friend? I would never, Catherine. You're being ridiculous. Is this about the travel I told you? It's all business. I have photos. David. Another silence. Then his voice changed, becoming harder, colder. What photos? You and Monica at the Ritz-Carlton last night. Would you like me to describe them? Or would you prefer to drop the act? She heard him breathing, could picture him in his corner office, touching his ear the way he always did when caught in a lie. Catherine, I can explain. She hung up. Rachel squeezed her hand. You did good. You did really good. Catherine stood up, one hand on her belly where her daughter was now definitely kicking. I need Barbara Chen's number, the divorce lawyer you mentioned last year when Stephanie was going through her situation. Are you sure maybe you should? I'm sure, Catherine interrupted. He's been planning something. I can feel it. This wasn't just an affair. David Morrison doesn't do anything without a strategy. Her phone buzzed with text after text from David. She didn't read them. Then Monica started calling. Catherine declined each call. Listen, Katie, Rachel said, pulling her sister into a careful hug. You're not alone in this. I'm moving in for a while. Mom will come up from Georgia. We're going to get through this. Catherine nodded, her hand protectively over her pregnant belly. I thought I knew him. 20 years. Rachel, 2 decades of my life with a man who could betray me with my best friend while I'm carrying his child. He showed you who he really is, Rachel said firmly. And now you're going to show him who you really are. The Catherine I know doesn't break. She builds. As if in response, the baby kicked again. Stronger this time. Catherine took a deep breath. You're right. I need to be smart about this. For her sake. She looked down at her belly. Your daddy just made the biggest mistake of his life. Little one? But Mama's going to make sure you're okay. Mama's always going to make sure you're okay. The next morning arrived with a deceptive normalcy. Catherine stood in David's home office, a room she rarely entered, surrounded by the evidence of their life together. Framed photos from their wedding, their trips to Europe, the groundbreaking ceremony for his company's new headquarters. All lies, she realized now, or at least partial truths hiding a darker reality. Rachel sat at David's desk, methodically going through credit card statements she'd printed from their online banking. "Katie, you need to see this." Catherine moved closer, her pregnancy making her feel clumsy and vulnerable in a way that had nothing to do with her physical state. The statements told a story she'd been too trusting to read before. "Tiffany, $4,200. March 15th. Rachel read. "Cartier, 8,000. April 3rd. La Perla Lingerie, 1,200. April 20th. "I never received any of those," Catherine said quietly. "My birthday was April 1st. He gave me a spa day certificate." Rachel pulled up another statement. "Hotel charges, the Ritz-Carlton, obviously, but also the Four Seasons, the St. Regis, all during his supposed business trips." She looked up at her sister. "This goes back 3 months, just like Jennifer said, right after you announced the pregnancy at that family dinner." Catherine sank into the leather chair across from the desk. "I was so happy that night. We'd tried for so long, and finally, our miracle." He seemed happy too. He cried. Rachel, he actually cried. "Crocodile tears," Rachel muttered, pulling up more files. "Wait, what's this?" She'd found a folder labeled Personal buried in his email archives. "Password protected." Catherine thought for a moment. "Try Titan 123. It's his yacht's name." The folder opened, revealing email exchanges between David and Monica dating back 4 months. Catherine forced herself to read them, each word a fresh wound. "She makes me feel alive again," David had written. "Catherine is so focused on this pregnancy, she doesn't see me anymore." Monica's response was worse. "You deserve someone who appreciates your success. She's let herself go. David, you need a woman who matches your ambition." Catherine's hand went to her slightly swollen face, the pregnancy weight she'd gained. She'd been so focused on keeping this baby healthy after 3 miscarriages that she hadn't noticed her millionaire husband's growing distance. Rachel slammed the laptop shut. "That witch. That absolute witch. She helped plan your baby shower. She went with you to prenatal appointments." "She knew everything," Catherine said, the full betrayal sinking in. "My fears about the pregnancy, my insecurities about my age, my struggles with the physical changes. I confided everything to her, and she used it to steal my husband." Catherine's phone rang. "Barbara Chen. Mrs. Morrison, your sister contacted me. Can you come to my office this afternoon and bring any documentation you have? Bank statements, emails, anything that shows the timeline of the affair and any financial irregularities." "Financial irregularities?" Catherine asked. "Millionaire husbands who have affairs often move assets before filing for divorce. It's a pattern I've seen dozens of times. They prepare their exit strategy long before the wife knows anything's wrong." After ending the call, Catherine went to their bedroom safe. David thought she didn't know the combination, but she'd watched him open it hundreds of times. Inside, she found what she was looking for and what she feared. Incorporation papers for a new company in the Cayman Islands, dated 2 weeks ago. Transferred documents moving $3 million to offshore accounts. And at the bottom, a draft separation agreement with yesterday's date. "He was going to serve me with papers," Catherine said, showing Rachel. "The affair, the photos, none of it matters. He was already planning to leave." Rachel studied the documents. "Listen, Katie, this is good. This shows premeditation. Barbara can use this." They spent the next 2 hours gathering evidence. Catherine discovered her investment account passwords had been changed. Their joint savings had been slowly drained, leaving just enough to avoid suspicion. David had been systematically preparing for divorce while she'd been preparing for their baby. That afternoon, in Barbara Chen's downtown office, the full scope of David's betrayal became clear. Barbara, a petite woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper legal mind, reviewed everything with the efficiency of someone who'd seen this story before. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to be direct with you. Your husband has been planning this for months. The affair with your friend is just part of it. He's hidden approximately $50 million in assets." $50 million, Catherine gasped. But his company is worth significantly more. Yes, but he's been moving money through shell companies, probably with Monica's help since she works in finance. This is sophisticated financial fraud, not just marital infidelity. Catherine felt the baby shift, a reminder of what was at stake. What about custody? He's never shown interest in the pregnancy. But narcissistic millionaire ex-husbands often use children as pawns, Barbara said, her courtroom voice crisp and clear. He'll likely demand joint custody, not because he wants it, but because it gives him leverage. We need to document everything. Every missed appointment, every absence, every text showing his lack of interest. Rachel leaned forward. He called Catherine hormonal and unstable when she confronted him. Barbara made a note. Classic gaslighting. We'll need to show a pattern of emotional abuse. Mrs. Morrison. I know this is difficult, but he's never hit me, Catherine said quickly. Physical abuse isn't the only kind that matters in court. Financial control, emotional manipulation, isolation from friends and family, these all count. Catherine thought about it. He did convince me to leave my marketing job 5 years ago. Said it was beneath a CEO's wife, and he's always been critical of my family, especially my mother. Good, I mean, not good, but useful. Now, let's talk strategy. Barbara outlined a plan that would protect Catherine's interests and, more importantly, secure her daughter's future. They would file first, catching David off guard. They would demand a full financial disclosure and forensic accounting. They would document every interaction, every lie, every manipulation. Your millionaire husband thinks he's smart, Barbara said, but I've handled dozens of these cases. Men like David always make the same mistakes. They underestimate their wives and they overestimate their own cleverness. That evening, Catherine returned home to find David's car in the driveway. Her heart raced, but Rachel was right beside her. I've got your back, Rachel whispered. They entered to find David in the living room, still in his expensive suit, touching his ear repeatedly as he paced. Catherine, thank God. We need to talk. Catherine remained standing, her hand protectively over her belly. Yes, we do. It meant nothing, David began, his corporate speak failing him for once. Monica, she just understood the pressure I'm under. You've been so focused on the pregnancy of your child, Catherine interrupted. I'm carrying your child, not a disease. David's face flushed. That's not what I meant. You're twisting my words. You always do this. Gaslighting won't work anymore. David! He stopped pacing, his expression hardening. What do you want? Money? The house? What's your price for making this go away quietly? Catherine almost laughed. Even now, he thought everything could be bought. I want the truth. How long have you been planning to leave? David touched his ear again. I don't know what you're talking about. The Cayman accounts, the offshore transfers, the separation agreement dated before I found out about the affair. His face went pale. You went through my office, our office, in our house, purchased with our money. David's mask finally slipped completely. You want to know the truth? Fine. You got pregnant, and suddenly, everything was about the baby. Your body changed. Your priorities changed. You weren't the woman I married anymore. No, Catherine said quietly. I wasn't. I became a mother, and you became a stranger. David grabbed his keys. I need space to think. I'll be at the penthouse. With Monica, he didn't answer, just strode toward the door. David, Catherine called after him. He turned. Your daughter deserves better than a father who runs away when things get difficult. Maybe she deserves better than a mother who drives her father away. He shot back, then left, slamming the door behind him. Rachel immediately wrapped her arms around Catherine. He's gone. That's good. Now we can really get to work. Catherine nodded, feeling something shift inside her, something stronger than sadness or anger. It was determination. You're right. The man I loved never existed. But this baby is real, and I'm going to give her the life she deserves, with or without her narcissistic father. The doorbell rang at midnight, 3 days after David had stormed out. Catherine had spent those days with Barbara, building their case, documenting everything. She'd barely slept, but adrenaline and maternal instinct kept her moving. Rachel answered the door while Catherine waited in the living room, her phone recording everything as Barbara had instructed. Mrs. Morrison. The man at the door was tall, impeccably dressed despite the late hour. I'm James Hartley from Hartley, Stevens, and Associates. I represent David Morrison. Catherine felt her stomach drop. Not David himself, but his lawyer. Already. It's midnight, Rachel protested. This is harassment. I apologize for the hour, but my client insisted this couldn't wait. He held out an envelope. Mrs. Morrison, you're being served. Catherine took the envelope with steady hands, though inside she was shaking. Served with what? Separation papers. My client is requesting that you vacate the premises within 72 hours. The house is listed as a corporate asset of Morrison Technologies. That's impossible, Catherine said. My name is on the deed. As you'll see in the documentation, the house was transferred to the company last year. You signed the papers? Catherine's mind raced. Last year, David had her sign what he said were tax documents. She'd trusted him. 20 years of marriage, and she'd trusted him. Furthermore, Hartley continued, my client is requesting joint custody of the unborn child, with the stipulation that major medical decisions require both parents' consent. Rachel stepped forward. You mean the child he's shown zero interest in the pregnancy he called a burden? Hartley's expression didn't change. My client loves his child and wants to be an active father. Mrs. Morrison's recent erratic behavior and mental instability make her fitness as a primary caregiver questionable. Mental instability. Catherine's voice rose. I'm 7 months pregnant and discovered my husband's affair with my best friend. Any reaction I've had is completely normal. The court will decide what's normal, Hartley said. He pulled out a second document. This is a restraining order preventing you from entering Morrison Technologies' property or contacting any of its employees. Monica works there, Catherine said, understanding dawning. He's protecting Monica. Ms. Mitchell is the company's new CFO. Any harassment of her will be considered a violation of this order. Catherine felt the baby kick hard, as if protesting this injustice. When was she promoted? That's confidential company information. After Hartley left, Catherine called Barbara immediately, despite the late hour. Don't panic, Barbara said after hearing everything. And definitely don't leave the house. The fact that they served you at midnight shows they are trying to intimidate you. The house transfer might be fraudulent if you didn't know what you were signing. We'll fight this. He listed Monica as CFO, Catherine said. She was a mid-level analyst 2 months ago. Sexual affair plus rapid promotion equals potential lawsuit for Morrison Technologies, Barbara said. This is good for us. Can you come to my office first thing tomorrow and bring those papers you signed last year? Catherine couldn't sleep. She sat in the nursery she'd so carefully decorated, surrounded by the gifts from her baby shower that Monica had helped organize. The irony was suffocating. She picked up a stuffed elephant Monica had given her, with a note that read, For your little peanut. Can't wait to be Auntie Monica. Rachel found her there at dawn. Listen, Katie, you need to eat something. The baby needs you strong. Catherine allowed her sister to lead her to the kitchen, where Rachel had prepared a healthy breakfast. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, Catherine said. The late nights, the new cologne, the way he'd turn his phone face down at dinner. You trusted your husband. That's not a character flaw. Catherine's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her breath caught. It was a photo of David and Monica at what looked like a jewelry store, Monica trying on rings. He's going to propose to her, Catherine said numbly. He's not even divorced yet, and he's going to propose. Another text came through. Thought you should know. A friend. Catherine forwarded everything to Barbara, then got dressed for their meeting. She chose her most professional maternity outfit, wanting to look stable and put together, the opposite of what David was claiming. At Barbara's office, a new player entered the game. Barbara had brought in a forensic accountant named Marcus Webb, a former IRS investigator who specialized in high-net-worth divorces. Mrs. Morrison, Marcus said, spreading papers across the conference table. Your husband has been very busy, but he's also been very sloppy. Come on, Marcus showed transaction after transaction, a clear pattern of asset hiding that started 4 months ago, right when the affair began. He's moved approximately $50 million through 17 different accounts, Marcus explained. But here's the interesting part. Monica Mitchell's signature is on several of these transactions. As CFO, she has fiduciary responsibility. What they've done isn't just marital asset hiding, it's corporate fraud. Catherine felt a spark of hope. You mean criminal fraud? Potentially. If we report this to the SEC, both David and Monica could face serious charges. Barbara leaned forward. This is our leverage. David wants to paint you as unstable. We'll show the court he's a criminal who promoted his mistress to help him steal money. There's more, Marcus said. He pulled up another document on his laptop. I found records of a previous divorce. David was married before, 15 years ago, to a woman named Elizabeth Manning. Catherine's world tilted. He told me she died. He said she died in a car accident before we met. Marcus shook his head. Very much alive, living in Connecticut, and there's a sealed settlement for $2 million. We need to talk to her, Barbara said immediately. If there's a pattern of behavior, it could be crucial. That afternoon, Catherine found herself sitting across from Elizabeth Manning in a quiet coffee shop in Greenwich. Elizabeth was elegant, composed, with silver hair and knowing eyes. I've been waiting 15 years for this conversation, Elizabeth said. When I heard David remarried, I wanted to warn you, but the NDA prevented me. NDA, Catherine asked. Non-disclosure agreement, part of my divorce settlement, but if you're in legal proceedings, I can speak to your lawyer. Elizabeth's story was chillingly familiar. The affair with a co-worker, the gradual asset hiding, the gaslighting, the attempt to paint her as mentally unstable. The difference is, Elizabeth said, I didn't have a baby. That makes you more vulnerable, but also stronger. He'll use the child as a weapon, but the child is also your reason to fight. How did you survive it? Catherine asked. Elizabeth smiled. Honey, I didn't just survive. I thrived. I took my settlement and started my own company. I'm worth more than David now, though he doesn't know it. Success is the best revenge. Did he ever show any remorse? Men like David aren't capable of remorse. They're narcissists. Everyone else is just a supporting character in their story. You were the wife appliance, necessary for his image. When you became inconvenient, pregnant and changed, as he probably said, he traded you in for a newer model. Catherine touched her belly. What about Monica Will? She realized what he is. Elizabeth laughed bitterly. She thinks she's special. She thinks she's different. But give it 5 years, maybe less. She'll be sitting where you are now, wondering how she missed the signs. As Catherine drove home, she felt something shift. This wasn't just her story. It was a pattern, a cycle of abuse that David had perfected. But she had something Elizabeth hadn't had proof of criminal activity. That evening, she found David at the house with a moving truck. The restraining order doesn't give you the right to take my things, Catherine said calmly, Rachel recording everything on her phone. I'm only taking what's mine, David said, directing movers to pack his office. And what about what's ours? 20 years of marriage. Doesn't that count for anything? David turned to her, and for a moment, his mask slipped. You want to know the truth? Catherine, you got old, you got pregnant, you got boring. Monica makes me feel alive. I make you feel young. You mean, Catherine said. But you're 52. David, you're not young. You're just rich enough that young women pretend you are. His face flushed red. Get out of my house. Our house, and I'm not going anywhere. David stepped closer, and Rachel immediately moved between them. Back off, David. Or what you'll call the police. I own them too. Catherine pulled out her phone. Actually, I'll call the SEC. I'm sure they'd be very interested in those Cayman accounts Monica helped you set up. David went pale. You wouldn't dare. You'd be destroying your child's father. No, Catherine said firmly. You destroyed yourself the moment you chose your mistress over your family. I'm just documenting it. David stormed out, leaving the movers confused. Catherine turned to them. Gentlemen, I'm sorry you've been caught in the middle of this. Please leave everything where it is. Mr. Morrison's lawyer can contact my lawyer about property division. The movers, clearly uncomfortable, packed up and left. Rachel hugged Catherine. You were amazing, strong, calm, perfect. Catherine sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm drowning. Listen, Katie, you just stood up to a millionaire narcissist who thought he could bulldoze you. You're not drowning, you're swimming, and you're going to make it to shore. 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and doctor's appointments. Catherine's blood pressure was rising, concerning her obstetrician, Dr. Laura Patel. Mrs. Morrison, this stress is affecting you and the baby, Dr. Patel said during an emergency visit. Your blood pressure is dangerously high. I'm putting you on modified bed rest. I can't rest, Catherine protested. I'm in the middle of a divorce, and my husband is trying to take everything. Your husband won't matter if you have a stroke, Dr. Patel said firmly. This baby needs you healthy. Everything else can wait. But it couldn't wait. That evening, as Catherine tried to rest, she heard David's voice through the baby monitor app on her phone. She'd forgotten it was still connected to his home office, a remainder from when they'd tested the system weeks ago. David was on speakerphone with Monica, and their conversation made Catherine's blood run cold. Once the divorce is final, we'll try for our own baby, David was saying. A fresh start. Catherine was always too uptight, Monica replied. You need someone who understands what you need. The pregnancy weight gain disgusted you, didn't it? Monica laughed. David's chuckle was cruel. Among other things, she let herself go completely. You'd never do that to me, would you? Never, baby. I'll always be your perfect 10. Catherine hit record, capturing every horrible word. She realized she wasn't crying. She was finally, truly angry. She called Barbara immediately. I have them on tape, admitting to the affair, planning a future together, and saying horrible things about me. Send it to me now, Barbara said. This is exactly what we need for court. The next morning brought another surprise. James Thompson, the private investigator Barbara had hired, arrived with a thick folder. Mrs. Morrison, your husband has quite a history, he said, his former cop demeanor direct and no nonsense. 3 affairs before Monica that you probably didn't know about. Catherine's hands shook as she looked through the evidence. Photos, hotel receipts, credit card records showing a pattern of infidelity throughout their marriage. But that's not the worst part, Thompson continued. Monica Mitchell has been embezzling from Morrison Technologies for the past year. Your husband either doesn't know or doesn't care because she's helping him hide assets. Embezzling. Small amounts at first, then larger. She's skimmed nearly $500,000. It's all here in the forensic accounting. Catherine felt the baby shift uncomfortably. Why would she risk that gambling debts, Thompson said. She owes some dangerous people money. Your husband is her meal ticket out of trouble. This changed everything. Monica wasn't just a mistress. She was a criminal using David while David used her. It was almost poetic in its mutual destruction. That afternoon, Catherine's mother arrived from Georgia, sweeping into the house with her thick southern drawl and fierce protective energy. Honey, that man's showing his true colors now, she said, enveloping Catherine in a careful hug. But you're my daughter, and my daughters don't break. They bend. They might even crack a little, but they don't break. Her mother's presence was a comfort Catherine didn't know she needed. They spent the evening going through photo albums, her mother pointing out all the times David had been absent from family events, all the signs they'd missed. He never liked me, her mother said matter-of-factly. Said I was too country for his sophisticated friends. But honey, being country means we know how to handle snakes. The next day brought the confrontation Catherine had been dreading. David and Monica appeared at the house together, Monica wearing Catherine's jewelry, the pearl necklace that had been Catherine's grandmother's. That's mine, Catherine said quietly. Monica touched the pearls. David gave them to me. He said you wouldn't mind. Like he gave you my husband. My life, my best friend status that you used to destroy me. Monica's mask slipped for a moment. You were never going to make him happy. He needed someone who understood his ambition. You mean someone who would help him commit fraud? Catherine shot back. David stepped forward. Be very careful what you say. Catherine, slander is a serious accusation. So is embezzlement, Catherine replied. How much has she stolen from your company? David, does the board know their new CFO is a thief? Monica went pale. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I do. Just like I know about your gambling debts. Does David know you owe $50,000 to some very unpleasant people? David turned to Monica, his face shocked. What is she talking about? The moment of discord between them was satisfying, but Catherine didn't have time to enjoy it. She felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, then another. Rachel, she gasped. Something's wrong. The next hours were a blur. The ambulance, the hospital, Dr. Patel's concerned face, the monitors showing contractions 5 weeks too early. We need to stop these contractions, Dr. Patel said. The baby's not ready. Catherine gripped Rachel's hand as they administered medication. Please, she whispered, please save my baby. Listen, Katie, Rachel said, tears in her eyes. She's strong like you. She's going to be fine. The medications worked. The contractions stopped. But Dr. Patel was firm. Complete bed rest now. No stress. No confrontations. Nothing. This baby needs at least 3 more weeks. From her hospital bed, Catherine watched Barbara work magic. The recording from the baby monitor. The evidence of Monica's embezzlement. The pattern of David's affairs. It all built a case that even David's expensive lawyers couldn't refute. But David wasn't done. He posted on social media about being a concerned father, denied from seeing his pregnant wife, painting himself as the victim. Monica stood by him, playing the supportive partner. They're controlling the narrative, Barbara said. We need to respond. No, Catherine said from her hospital bed. Let them hang themselves. The truth always comes out. And it did, faster than anyone expected. Catherine had been home on bed rest for 3 days when the full scope of David's financial betrayal became clear. Rachel had taken over managing the household, and it was she who discovered the first problem. Katie, your credit card was declined at the grocery store, Rachel said, entering the bedroom where Catherine lay propped up with pillows, monitoring her blood pressure every hour as instructed. That's impossible. It has a $50,000 limit. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed. I called the bank. David removed you as an authorized user yesterday. Catherine reached for her laptop, logging into their joint accounts, or trying to. Access denied appeared on screen after screen. He's locked me out of everything, Catherine said, her voice hollow. 20 years of marriage, and I can't even access our checking account. Barbara arrived within an hour, bringing Marcus Webb with her. They set up a makeshift office in Catherine's bedroom, transforming the space into a financial war room. This is actually good for us, Barbara said, though her expression was grim. He's showing financial abuse, which judges don't look kindly upon, especially with a pregnant wife. Marcus was already deep into his laptop. I found more offshore accounts. The Caymans were just the beginning. There are accounts in Switzerland, Luxembourg, and Dubai. Your millionaire ex-husband has hidden approximately $70 million. $70 million? Catherine couldn't process the number. But that's more than his company is worth. On paper, yes, Marcus said. But he's been siphoning money from investor funds, hiding it as operating expenses. Monica's signature is on everything. She's not just his mistress, she's his accomplice in securities fraud. Catherine felt the baby move, a reminder of what really mattered. What about my immediate needs? I have $30,000 in my personal account. But with a baby coming, we're filing an emergency motion for temporary support, Barbara said. Given his assets and your condition, the court should act quickly. That afternoon, Catherine's mother and Rachel organized the household finances. They were meticulous, documenting every expense, every bill that needed paying. Honey, we found something, her mother said, entering with a box of papers. These were in the attic. It was David's first divorce decree, the one Catherine had never seen. Elizabeth Manning had been right about everything. But there was more. David had hidden a child from that marriage, a son he'd abandoned, paying child support, but never visiting. He has a son, Catherine whispered, a 20-year-old son he never told me about. Rachel was already searching social media. Found him, Michael Manning Morrison. He's at Yale, pre-law. Catherine stared at the photo of a young man who looked startlingly like David. I need to talk to him. That's not a good idea, Barbara warned. It could be seen as harassment. Or it could be seen as a woman trying to understand the man she married, Catherine countered. 2 days later, Michael Manning Morrison sat in Catherine's living room, a serious young man with his father's features, but his mother's kind eyes. He paid for everything, Michael said. School, clothes, cars, but he never once came to a birthday, a graduation, nothing. Mom said he was incapable of love, only ownership. Why did you agree to meet me? Catherine asked. Because you're carrying my half-sibling, and that child deserves to know the truth about our father. He's not a bad man in the traditional sense. He's empty. There's nothing inside him but ambition and appetite. Michael shared documents his mother had kept, patterns of behavior that matched exactly what Catherine was experiencing. He'll use your child as a weapon, Michael warned. Not because he wants custody, but because it gives him power over you. Don't let him. After Michael left, Catherine felt a strange sense of peace. She wasn't crazy, wasn't hormonal, wasn't any of the things David claimed. She was simply the latest woman to discover that her millionaire husband was incapable of real human connection. The emergency hearing was scheduled for the next morning, but that night, Catherine's water broke. It's too early, she gasped as Rachel helped her to the car. 5 weeks too early. Dr. Patel met them at the hospital. We can't stop it this time. Your baby is coming. The next hours were a blur of pain and fear. Catherine's blood pressure spiked dangerously high, and Dr. Patel made the call for an emergency cesarean section. Where's David? Catherine asked as they wheeled her to surgery. Did anyone call him? We've called 6 times, Rachel said. He's not answering. As the anesthesia took hold, Catherine's last thought was not of her husband's absence, but of her daughter's presence. I'm here, baby girl, she whispered. Mama's here. Hope Catherine Morrison was born at 4 pounds, 2 ounces, a tiny fighter who came into the world screaming. Catherine heard that cry from behind the surgical drape and wept with relief. She's small but strong, Dr. Patel announced. She'll need some time in the NICU, but she's perfect. Catherine got only a glimpse of her daughter before the nurses whisked her away to the neonatal intensive care unit. Rachel stayed by Catherine's side while her mother followed the baby. She's beautiful, Katie, Rachel said, showing her phone photos. She has your nose and, unfortunately, David's chin, but we'll forgive her for that. David finally arrived 12 hours later, with Monica in the waiting room. The audacity of bringing his mistress to the birth of his child was breathtaking even for him. I want to see my daughter, he demanded. Dr. Patel, who'd been briefed by Barbara, stood firm. Medical decisions only. Mr. Morrison, your wife is the only one authorized to make decisions about the baby's care. She's my child too. And when you were answering your phone during the emergency, when your wife's blood pressure was threatening her life, and your daughter's, where were you? David had no answer. Security eventually escorted him and Monica out, but not before Monica posted on social media. Some people are so dramatic, using a baby for attention. Catherine saw the post from her hospital bed and felt nothing. These people were beneath her contempt now. Hope's first week was a series of small victories and terrifying setbacks. She developed breathing problems on day 3, requiring oxygen support. Catherine spent every allowed moment in the NICU, talking to her daughter, willing her to fight. Your daddy came by today, Catherine told Hope during one visit, the baby's tiny hand wrapped around her finger. He stayed for 15 minutes, took some photos for his social media, and left. But that's okay. Baby girl, you've got an army of people who actually love you. That army had grown. Elizabeth Manning visited, bringing a coalition of David's other victims, women he'd wronged in business and personal life. They formed an unexpected support group in the hospital waiting room. We call ourselves the Morrison Survivors Club, Elizabeth said with dark humor. You're not alone in this. Barbara used David's hospital behavior as ammunition. 1 visit in a week, and he's demanding joint custody. The judge will see right through that. The forensic accounting revealed more disturbing news. David had taken out a life insurance policy on Catherine 6 months ago, with himself as the beneficiary. He was planning something, Marcus said grimly. Maybe not murder, but definitely planning for your potential death in childbirth. Catherine's blood ran cold. He knew about my high-risk pregnancy, my age, my history of miscarriages. And he saw dollar signs, Barbara finished. We're adding this to our filing. Hope gradually improved, and after 2 weeks, she was strong enough to leave the NICU. Catherine was preparing to take her home when David appeared with a court order. Supervised visitation, he announced. 1 hour, twice a week. Catherine wanted to refuse, but Barbara had warned her this would come. Let him have his supervised visits. He'll either show his true colors or lose interest. Either way, it helps our case. The first visit was a disaster. David held Hope awkwardly, more concerned with getting the perfect photo than comforting his crying daughter. The court-appointed supervisor took notes as David handed the baby back after just 20 minutes. She's too fussy, he complained. Probably gets that from her mother. Meanwhile, Monica's world was crumbling. The SEC had opened an investigation into Morrison Technologies' financial irregularities. Her gambling debts had come due, and without David's protection, she was vulnerable. Catherine watched from her bedroom window as Monica appeared at the house one evening, mascara running, begging David to help her. You promised? Monica cried. You said we'd be together. That was before you became a liability, David replied coldly. You're on your own. The irony wasn't lost on Catherine. Monica was learning what Catherine had learned, that David Morrison's promises were worth nothing. Dr. Patel remained concerned about Catherine's recovery. Your blood pressure is still too high. The stress is preventing your body from healing. How can I not be stressed? My millionaire ex-husband is trying to take my child while his mistress implodes and takes his company with her. I understand, but you need to think about Hope. She needs you healthy. It was the wake-up call Catherine needed. She began meditation, started therapy, and focused on healing both physically and emotionally. Her support group grew stronger, with women sharing their own stories of surviving narcissistic abuse and rebuilding their lives. Barbara's strategy was working. The SEC investigation had expanded, and David was now under federal scrutiny. His carefully constructed empire was crumbling, and he was desperate. He's offered $10 million to settle, Barbara told Catherine. Full custody to you. No visitation rights. Clean break. Catherine considered it. $10 million was more than she'd ever dreamed of. Enough to raise Hope comfortably. But something held her back. What happens to the criminal charges? They'd proceed regardless. Monica has already flipped. She's testifying against him for immunity. The betrayal was complete. Monica, the woman who destroyed Catherine's marriage, was now destroying David to save herself. She came to see me, Catherine said. Monica? She wanted to apologize. Barbara's eyebrows rose. And I didn't let her in. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness. The investigation revealed the full extent of David's crimes. He'd defrauded investors of millions, used company funds for personal expenses, and created a web of financial lies that went back years. Michael, David's abandoned son, provided crucial testimony. He did the same thing to my mother's family business, destroyed it from the inside, then bought the assets for pennies. The Morrison Survivors Club had grown to 12 women, each with stories of David's manipulation and cruelty. They provided affidavits for Catherine's divorce case, establishing a pattern of narcissistic abuse that spanned decades. Your husband isn't just a cheater, Barbara said. He's a predator who uses marriage and relationships as weapons for financial gain. Catherine nursed hope while listening to Barbara's strategy for the final hearing. Her daughter was thriving now, gaining weight, her little personality emerging. She had Catherine's calm demeanor, but a fierce determination that was all her own. You're going to be stronger than both of us, Catherine whispered to her daughter. You're going to know your worth from day one. Rachel had moved in permanently, helping with night feedings and providing the support David never had. Catherine's mother extended her stay, filling the house with the smell of Southern cooking and unconditional love. Honey, you've built something here, her mother said one evening as they watched Hope sleep. A real family. Not the fake one David provided, but something genuine. Catherine realized she was right. In losing her marriage, she'd gained something more valuable, a community of women who understood her journey and supported her without condition. The baby shower Catherine had canceled was reorganized by her support group. "You deserve to celebrate," Elizabeth insisted. "This baby is a miracle, regardless of her father." The party was beautiful, held in Elizabeth's garden, with 40 women who'd become Catherine's new family. Hope, now 2 months old, was passed around like a tiny celebrity, adored by everyone. Catherine was opening gifts when Monica walked in, uninvited and clearly drunk. "You ruined everything," Monica slurred, pointing at Catherine. "David was mine." The room went silent. Rachel moved to intervene, but Catherine raised her hand. "David was never anyone's, Monica. He's incapable of belonging to anyone but himself." Monica laughed bitterly. "You think you've won. You think that money will make you happy. He'll destroy you in court." "Like he destroyed you?" Catherine asked quietly. "You helped him commit fraud. Monica, you betrayed your best friend for a man who threw you away the moment you became inconvenient. Who really lost here?" Monica pulled out an envelope. "He wanted me to give you this. Consider it a wedding gift." She laughed at her own cruel joke. It was a new settlement offer, $5 million, but with a catch: Catherine would have to sign an NDA, never speaking about David or their marriage again. "Tell him no," Catherine said, handing the envelope back. "I won't be silenced." Monica's face crumbled. "I loved him. I really loved him." "No," Catherine said firmly. "You loved what he represented. Power, money, status. Just like I did. Once. But that's not love, Monica. That's transaction." Security arrived to escort Monica out, but the damage was done. Several guests were crying, remembering their own betrayals, but Elizabeth stood up, raising her glass. "To Catherine," she said, "who shows us that midlife transformation isn't about finding a new man, it's about finding yourself." The toast became a rallying cry. Women shared their stories, their survivals, their triumphs. Hope slept through it all, safe in her mother's arms. That night, Catherine received a call from the FBI. David had been arrested on federal fraud charges. His assets were frozen, his passport confiscated. The empire he'd built on lies was finally falling. "How do you feel?" Rachel asked, finding Catherine standing by Hope's crib. "Free," Catherine said simply. "For the first time in 20 years, I feel free." The divorce hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in September. Hope was 3 months old, healthy and thriving. Catherine dressed carefully in a navy suit that showed she meant business, while Hope wore a tiny dress that her grandmother had made. The courtroom was packed. The Morrison Survivors Club had come in force, along with media who'd gotten wind of the Millionaire CEO's spectacular fall from grace. David entered with his legal team, still projecting confidence despite his circumstances. He was out on bail, awaiting federal trial, but acted as if he were still the powerful CEO everyone feared. Catherine's testimony was powerful and precise. She presented 20 years of marriage, the fertility struggles, the joy of finally conceiving, and then the betrayal that followed. She played the recording of David and Monica discussing her pregnancy with disgust. "He didn't betray just me," Catherine said, looking directly at the judge. "He betrayed his unborn child, choosing his mistress over his daughter before she was even born." David's lawyer tried to paint Catherine as vindictive, but the evidence was overwhelming. The hidden assets, the financial abuse, the pattern of behavior established by previous victims, it all painted a picture of a narcissistic man who used people as stepping stones to wealth. Then came the surprise witness. Monica entered the courtroom, now working with the FBI as part of her immunity deal. "I was promised everything," Monica testified. "David said he loved me, that Catherine was cold and unfeeling. But I learned the truth. He was already planning to replace me with someone younger." "I found emails to a 25-year-old intern." David stood up, shouting, "You lying witch, you begged me to leave her." The judge gavelled him quiet, but the damage was done. His mask had slipped completely, revealing the angry, entitled man beneath the polished exterior. Michael testified next. David's hidden son. "My father pays money instead of attention. He thinks writing checks absolves him of actual parenting. My half-sister deserves better." The financial forensics were presented in detail. 70 million hidden decades of fraud, tax evasion that would likely result in significant prison time. Mr. Morrison, the judge said, you've systematically destroyed your family while enriching yourself through criminal means. This court has rarely seen such a clear case of financial and emotional abuse. The ruling was swift and decisive. Catherine received full custody of Hope, with David granted supervised visitation only after completing parenting classes and therapy. The financial settlement was $40 million, more than half of David's acknowledged assets. Furthermore, the judge continued, given Mr. Morrison's pattern of using children as weapons, any violation of this custody agreement will result in immediate termination of all parental rights. David's face was purple with rage, but his lawyers kept him quiet. Outside the courthouse, Catherine stood with Hope in her arms, surrounded by her support system. Reporters pushed forward with questions. Mrs. Morrison, how does it feel to win? Catherine adjusted Hope on her hip, thinking carefully. This isn't about winning. It's about protecting my daughter and rebuilding our lives. Financial independence after betrayal isn't just about money. It's about reclaiming your worth. Any words for other women in your situation? Yes, Catherine said firmly. You are not crazy. You are not hormonal. You are not too demanding. If your partner betrays you at your most vulnerable moment, that speaks to their character, not yours. Women supporting women saved my life. Find your tribe. As they drove home, Hope started babbling in her car seat, making the sounds that would soon become words. That's right, baby girl, Catherine cooed. You tell them your story. 6 months after the divorce, Catherine stood in the office of her new company, Morrison Survivor Solutions, a consulting firm helping women navigate high-asset divorces and rebuild their lives. Elizabeth was her business partner, and they'd already helped 30 women escape similar situations. Hope, now 9 months old, crawled around the office playpen, pulling herself up on furniture and grinning at everyone who passed. She was the company mascot, a reminder of why they did this work. We have a new client, Elizabeth announced. 28-year-old wife of a tech CEO, found out he's been hiding assets and cheating with her sister. Well, send her in, Catherine said. We'll help her. The business was thriving, but more importantly, Catherine was thriving. She'd started therapy to deal with the trauma, joined a workout group for new mothers, and was even considering dating again, though that was far in the future. David called from prison, where he was serving 3 years for tax evasion and fraud. The federal trial had been swift, Monica's testimony damning. I want to see Hope for her first birthday, he said. Catherine considered it. You can see her when you can explain to her why you chose your mistress over her mother, when you can take responsibility without blaming everyone else. I lost everything, David said, his voice breaking. No, David, you threw everything away. There's a difference. She hung up, feeling nothing but pity for the man who'd once been her world. Monica had written a letter, 6 pages of apologies and explanations. Catherine read it once, then filed it away. Forgiveness might come someday, but not today. Today was about moving forward. The first birthday party was magical. The house was full of women and children, laughter and love. Hope took her first steps that day, toddling from Catherine to Rachel to her grandmother, each woman cheering as if she'd won Olympic gold. She's walking, Rachel cried. Listen, Katie, your baby's walking. Catherine scooped up her daughter, spinning her around. That's my brave girl. You're going to walk through this world with your head held high. Elizabeth raised a toast. To Hope, who brought us all together. To Catherine, who showed us strength we didn't know existed. And to second chances, which sometimes come disguised as endings. The women clinked glasses, their children playing at their feet, their futures bright with possibility. That night, after everyone had gone home, Catherine sat in Hope's nursery, reading her a bedtime story. Hope's first clear word wasn't Dada, as David had probably hoped. It was Mama, spoken with such clarity and joy that Catherine's eyes filled with tears. That's right, baby girl. Mama's here. Mama will always be here. As Hope drifted off to sleep, Catherine reflected on the journey. The betrayal photos that had destroyed her marriage had indeed saved her life. They'd freed her from a narcissistic millionaire ex-husband who was incapable of real love. They'd led her to financial independence, genuine friendships, and a purpose she'd never imagined. David's affair with Monica wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of who she was meant to become, a woman who turned catastrophe into triumph, who built $1 million business from the ashes of betrayal, who showed her daughter that strength isn't about never falling, it's about how you rise. The moonlight streamed through the nursery window, illuminating Hope's peaceful face. Catherine touched her daughter's soft cheek, whispering, "You were worth everything, little one. Every tear, every fight, every moment of pain led me to you. And you, my darling Hope, were all I ever really needed." She thought about the universal question so many women face. How do you rebuild when someone you trusted destroys everything? The answer, she'd learned, wasn't in finding another man, or even in the money she'd won. It was in discovering that you were always enough, that your worth was never dependent on someone else's validation. The statistics said women over 40 faced decreased chances of finding love again, that single mothers struggled more, that divorce after 40 meant accepting less. But Catherine had learned that midlife transformation wasn't about finding a new relationship. It was about finally, truly, finding yourself. Her phone buzzed with a text from a new client. "I'm 43, pregnant, and just found out about my husband's affair. Everyone says I'm crazy to leave him now. Am I?" Catherine typed back, "You're not crazy. You're brave. Come see me tomorrow. Women supporting women. Remember, we'll get through this together." As she closed Hope's door, Catherine realized the true gift of her journey. She'd thought she was fighting for money, for custody, for justice. But she'd been fighting for something much more valuable, the right to show her daughter that women don't have to accept less than they deserve, that betrayal doesn't define you, and that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that could ever happen. The house was quiet now, peaceful in a way it had never been during her marriage. No walking on eggshells. No wondering where David was or who he was with. No pretending everything was perfect for the sake of appearances. This was real life, messy and imperfect, and absolutely beautiful. Catherine Morrison, 45 years old, single mother, CEO of her own company, survivor of narcissistic abuse, and thriver in spite of it all, was finally, completely, authentically herself. And that, she knew as she headed to her own bedroom, was the greatest gift she could give her daughter, the example of a woman who refused to be diminished, who turned her millionaire ex-husband's betrayal into her own triumph, who proved that financial independence and emotional freedom were possible at any age, in any circumstance, as long as you were brave enough to fight for them. The story that had begun with betrayal photos had become something so much more. It had become a testament to the power of women supporting women, to the strength that comes from surviving narcissistic abuse, to the beauty of midlife transformation when you finally stop living for someone else and start living for yourself and the ones who truly matter. Hope would grow up knowing her worth, never questioning whether she was enough, never accepting less than complete respect and genuine love. That was Catherine's real victory, worth more than any $1 million divorce settlement. As she drifted off to sleep, Catherine smiled, thinking of all the women she'd help tomorrow, next week, next year, each one thinking their story was ending when really, like hers, it was just beginning. The betrayal photos hadn't destroyed her life. They'd given her the push she needed to build a better one. And for that, in a strange way, she was almost grateful. Almost.